Hi folks, John with the Wingman 115 channel. Thank you so much for checking in. I'm up here in my backwoods playground today. We're taking the opportunity, it's a beautiful day, to do a knife review, a long-awaited knife review of the FirstEdge 50/50 survival knife. Now for folks that follow along on the channel, you've probably watched the video where I did a factory tour. I was invited to go up to the FirstEdge factory where you see the complete process of how this knife is made. I'll leave a link in the video description below. If you haven't had the chance to watch that video, check it out. It's really cool how we guide you through the whole process of how this knife is made. Now, FirstEdge is a company that makes knives for the Navy SEALs. So this has to be a pretty tough, badass operator knife. Challenge accepted. We decided to come up to the woods. We're gonna do some thrash testing. I don't have no huge budget, so we're not blowing up cars and smashing windows and doing crazy town stuff. But we're gonna try to do the best job that we can do out here in the woods to illustrate how tough and robust this blade is, and if it lives up to the standards that the folks over at FirstEdge claim. Now, without further ado, we're gonna cut away. We're gonna do a quick tabletop specs rundown. We're gonna get down and dirty with this blade. You're gonna see it up close and personal. Some of the specs, what this blade's made out of, the dimensions, all that good stuff. We'll cut away, we'll do some practical application, and then I will give you some final thoughts and a rating on this blade. Folks, you're not gonna wanna miss this. It's gonna be a fun day out in the woods, just thrashing and going crazy town. Come along and join me. For this test, we're going to test out the pommel on this pine cone. Now, for safety's sake, I put on some gloves. I don't normally wear gloves when I'm out here, but I'm smarter than I look. These things are extremely sharp, and I do not want to cut up my hands. So, without further ado, let's get to working on this. And this is just to illustrate how that spiked pommel just makes quick work of this pine cone. I can only imagine in a tactical setting how this would work. Right there. So if you're in a hurry and you needed to make tinder on the quick, I mean, just a few seconds, we have a lot of material right there. So, great job with that pommel. It's very pronounced, and I'm sure it's made for putting the hurt on people. But in other tactical operations, if you got to break glass, if you have to pierce something with it, I'm very confident that that pommel would do that. Here's another test that I don't advocate doing at home. We're going to be doing a stab test. Now, the strength of a blade is fore and aft. Strength is not lateral in steel. It just isn't designed inherently for that. But as this blade is designed for special operations and for extreme use, I have to come out and do some sort of stress test on this to show you as a viewer the value of this blade and that it's going to live up to the statements that the manufacturer says on this. So let's try doing some stab tests real quick. Oh, if I can strike it right. No tip problems there. The tip does feel a little warm, but I think that's just from moving the fibers of the wood. And another thing to point out is that my hand feels really secure with that choil that's in the handle. So you can be rest assured I don't feel like my hand is just going to slide right off and go across that blade. I mean, we're driving it down in there and it's holding up. Now we're going to have some fun. We're going to practice chopping through this dead limb. And like I said earlier, these pine limbs, when they get dry, they are really tough. So without further ado, let's get to chopping. Not bad. Now, one of the attributes, like I said earlier, this knife is a pretty hefty piece of steel. So as you're coming down on there, you're getting some pretty good strikes. Now, if that had been fresh wood, I have no doubt that we would have been able to cut through this limb probably twice as fast with half of the strikes that we used. So that's not bad for this being some really old dry pine. Here we're just doing a little bit of wood splitting. And that's where the advantage of this blade, the thickness of the blade, comes in handy. If we're using it, say, reverse style to make some feathers or just some tinder real quick, there you go, if you had to make tinder real quick. Now, another thing I was thinking of is this pommel is so sharp and pronounced that if you need to sit here and crush stuff up, mash it up. Because when you're doing your tinder, it's all about getting those fine fibrous materials, right? That are gonna take a spark, that are gonna ignite. So if you're using this as an outdoor knife, I mean, the skull crusher pommel on this is multi-purpose for just making some quick tinder to get that fire going. I'm gonna pound this knife into this tree and we're gonna stand on it. Now, I don't advocate doing this because this will void any warranty that the knife manufacturer has. And you could get seriously injured doing this. But I do this in this knife review just to show you folks the strength of this blade and the heat treat, if it's going to hold up to what the company says that it will. So we're going to stand on the log. I got a little bit of spring in there. I don't think I put it in all the way, but this is a $1.95 standing on it. Let's take it back out. And she's still nice and straight. So it passed the stress test. And that was right on the tip of that blade too. So if it's gonna break, that's the weakest point. Seeing that I'm on a limited budget and I couldn't afford a car hood, we're using the next best thing, a number 10 size tin can. And we're gonna start off with the pommel of this blade. It has this nice, really pointed pommel, and we're gonna see how well it pierces this can. So right off the bat, it just oil cans the top of this can really nice. So for piercing, it's working really good. test this ELMAX Steel to see edge retention, how well it's going to hold an edge. And then we'll just maybe start going around it. I don't know. Let's see. So you never know, real world, you might have to cut something open, a 55-gallon drum, whatever. If you're an operator, we don't know what you might have to do. But this is a great way to test that edge and see how it's going to hold up. So I probably pierced it, what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 15 times. Let's see how well it's going to hold an edge. Piece of wood. It's a little bit damp, so let's see how well it's going to cut. This ELMAX steel is some pretty tough steel. This is one of those super steels, the powdered steels that's mixed. So let me look up close. I see no rolled edges, none at all. That's definitely a good sign. That's a testament to their heat treat and the properties of this metal. But it's still cutting really well. I don't know how well I can pierce the side of this can. Try not to get hurt in the process. But going crazy town on this Bush's bean can. I apologize to the Bush Bean Company for that, but I really appreciate their can though. So I mean, we're just going nuts. Let me get a piece of paper and we'll see how well it'll slice a piece of paper. All right, I'm sacrificing some show notes. That right there is a testament to the edge retention of that blade. That's me there, folks, not the blade. Perfect, perfect. So that is a testament. Not many knives are going to be able to stab tin cans and to be able to hold an edge like that. And the coating is very durable. Look how well that coating stayed on there. Let's do a ferro rod test. Now, this knife has a 90-degree spine. So it will scrape a ferro rod. Now for some final thoughts on this FirstEdge 50/50 survival knife. You saw on the factory tour how Mr. Sieber described the sheath and the need to have that stainless steel welt going all the way around because they were in extreme cold conditions up in Kodiak, Alaska. I really love that feature. The drain hole on there is awesome. And the webbing where it's going to hold a 2-inch utility belt is just outstanding. You've seen me go through a cornucopia of testing on this blade. And all I can say is this blade took everything we had and laughed at us. Piercing that can, I thought, hey, we're going to roll an edge. Nope. Standing on the blade, I thought, oh my gosh, being at a Rockwell of 60 or a little bit higher, I'm thinking, John, I'm a $1.95, I'm going to snap this blade. Nope, it took it and it stayed straight. That's a testament to the steel and the heat treat. I love that black oxidized coating. And I like the fact that it's kind of muted where you're not going to pick up shine. So if you're an operator, a tactical operator, you're in a forward operating unit, that may be a consideration to think about, that you're using your blade and all of a sudden somebody picks up shine and now all of a sudden you're a target. For us folks doing bushcraft, campcraft, playing woodsman out here in the woods, that's not such a big deal, but that coating is very durable. It held up to the can piercing, to jabbing it into wood. It just worked really nice. What really surprised me was we didn't roll the edge of this blade. It stayed really nice. After all the testing, it cut paper really well. I love this pommel. I'm not going to go into crazy downtown detail about it, but I love that design. It really did the little oil can holes in the top of that number 10 tin can. And I know that if you are a tactical operator, that this would probably give someone an Excedrin headache number 28. So that's a check in the plus column. The G10 scales, profiled, excellent. I love the fact that there's enough sweep in that blade to protect your hand as you're jabbing, as you're cutting. I feel secure that my hand's not going to slip. There's a micro choil here where if you want to get in and do some quick, detailed work, it's going to work really nice. Now, if you have small hands, these handles might be on the big side for you. I have medium-sized hands. It fits really well. I felt no hand fatigue. There's just enough checkering on the G10 where my hands were really secure. I like the fact that there's no jimping on this blade. Doesn't need it. The way that handle's designed, just a nice basic handle design. My hand felt really secure on this blade. The 90-degree spine did the ferro rod really nice and the scraping really nice. So it checks off every question that folks have if they're looking for a woods knife, a survival knife, a hunting knife, and if you're a tactical operator knife. Now, you know that I rate my knives on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being that it's a dumper, 5 meaning that's a grand slam. Seeing everything that we've done in this video, plus the factory tour of how this blade is made, I have to give it a 5. And I'm not just saying that because, ooh, they gave you a knife and this and that. I don't work that way. The only thing a person has is their word and their integrity. And if something is a piece of crap, I'm going to tell you, you work hard for your money, I do too. And if you're going to throw down a few Benjis on a knife, you're going to want it to perform. And I'm here to tell you right now that this knife is going to last you a very long, long time. Now, barring that you're not crushing cinder blocks and jabbing the point into an anvil. For all the stuff that we're going to do with campcraft, bushcraft, hunting, this blade is going to last you a lifetime. And it's one of those deals where they say buy once, cry once. And this is definitely one of those knives that if you buy once, cry once, you're going to hand this knife down to your son or daughter years from now. With that said, this wraps up the review of the FirstEdge 50/50 survival knife. If you're not a subscriber, folks, I'm asking you, what are you doing? You need to be part of the action. Hit the subscribe button, pull the trigger, get her done, be part of the action. A lot of great things happening this summer. I know you want to be involved, and that's one of the best ways for us to keep in touch. Social media links, I won't bore you. They're in the video description below. I'll leave a link to FirstEdge where you can purchase this blade, and I'll also leave the link on the factory tour in the video description below. Folks, thanks for watching. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. This is Wingman, out.